Quick disclaimer, we are not investigative journalists. We simply read, watch, and listen to whatever we can to satisfy our curiosity while use this information to form our own personal opinions. Do not take this as investigative journalism. This is simply our own rabbit holes.
Hello, friends, and get ready. We're going to talk about the docs, the crimes, and all the people involved. This is Crime and Chill.
Hey guys, I'm Rachel.
And I'm Victoria.
How are you, Victoria?
So-so. I didn't sleep good last night. How are you?
I'm not too bad. It's rainy, so I'm tired.
Same. It's gross.
I like to go back to sleep, but not that gross. This weather, it's good sleeping weather.
I agree. So what crime news do you have for me today?
Alrighty, so yesterday, Monday, October 4th, started jury selection for Nicholas Cruz. Now, you may have heard that name before. He is the suspect in the 2018 school shooting that killed 17 people. But this jury selection does not have anything to do with that case, and he's actually still awaiting trial for that. 9 months after gunning, yeah, well, I mean, that is a big case, plus the pandemic. He gunned down 17 students. I think he injured like 14. So there's a lot of witnesses, a lot of evidence that needs to be put together. But while he was awaiting trial, 9 months after getting arrested, he thinks it's a good idea to attack a Broward County jail guard and is now facing up to another 15-year sentence if convicted of attempted battery on a law enforcement officer. Prosecutors say that the surveillance evidence speaks for itself, but the defense attorneys says that it was provoked and that they have been complaining about the treatment he was receiving for months prior to the attack. Now, if he is convicted of this, he is going to definitely receive the death penalty for the school shooting. Which either way, however you believe, I mean, he killed 17 people already.
Yeah.
And now has injured, a conviction. I mean, a law enforcement officer in the jail. So, yeah, it doesn't look good for him.
Jesus.
Right? Yeah, his attorneys says that they were abusing him, mistreating him, which obviously they cannot do that, regardless of what his crimes were.
Right.
But yeah, so jury selection starts, and they're hoping to have the school shooting, which was in Parkland, Florida, that trial to start within a couple months.
Alrighty then. So, sir, just might need some more psychological help if you're going to just randomly attack people. Not to mention the school shooting, because I remember all that. That shit was insane.
Yeah, it happened on
that started like a trickle effect for a while there.
February 14th of 2018. Actually, I think that was after a lot of them, but still, I don't know. That's a lot of people to kill.
That is a lot of people to kill. And I remember like all the crap that slowly came out about that. Like it was slowly but surely coming out about him and how it was planned and all that. So that's insane. I also did not realize he was still awaiting trial for that.
Yep. So it happened in February 14, 2018. They probably would have started being ready by 2020, and then the pandemic happened, and of course that slowed everything down. I mean, there's some witness statements that they're having issues with, and just some evidence that they want lined up. I mean, obviously they want this to be a open-close trial, but they said the attempted battery on the law enforcement officer should only take a couple days, while obviously the trial for the school shooting could take months, like from start to finish of the actual trial. So,
okay, well, with that being said, let's move on because that's disturbing.
So it's this case. So
I mean, yeah,
talk about
we live in disturbing land.
I'm gonna find something less disturbing soon.
Someday. So today we are talking about Cyntoia Brown, and I think this is a very interesting case with everything that's involved, and there's a lot of pieces to the story. But we watched Murder to Mercy, the Cyntoia Brown story, and this was on Netflix, and it was released in April of 2020.
So this documentary was put on Netflix without the prime star of the whole thing's permission. They used prior videos or whatever you'd call them, recordings of the trial and her psych evaluations and all of the things you would see throughout the documentary. That was all taken from a prior documentary and then reused in this documentary. Okay, I don't know how I feel about that. Cyntoia had no knowledge that this was going on Netflix. And yeah, so I originally, before I found all that, did give it like a 15, 16, I don't remember. It was a little bit higher than what I'm about to give it because of that. You did not make this movie. You took a bunch of other people's movies and put it all together to make your own. So now you get a 4.
Yeah, I mean, I really didn't care for it in general just because, like I've said before, I don't like the film festival style of filming. I think it's just weird, and for some reason it makes my head hurt, and I don't know why. But I don't care for it, and then find you telling me all of that, like I was like, it's like, oh no, that's not okay. So I am also giving it a 4 because that's fucked. You can't just put shit out without people's permission, and that shouldn't be allowed, but loopholes, I guess.
Yeah, I guess since she had already known about a documentary, which is how her now husband, finds out about her. I guess since it was already given permission, they were able to use it somehow. I'm not sure, but either way, that's a mess. So yes, a 4 for me. What about for you?
Yeah, I'm agreeing 4. Nah, that's
And the
messed
only
up.
reason why it's getting a 4 is because I never saw the original documentary. And the only reason I saw this one was because it was on Netflix. So because it got on Netflix, I now know about the case, but that's why you got a 4, not a 0.
More about these because remember when it's like when she came out, like it came out and like she started getting like attention on social media, and I remember all that. And so at the time I did read into her case some, but it showed me a little bit. It showed me more about like her backstory and things. So I mean, I appreciate that.
I appreciate it, but at the same time, not at the.
Not at somebody else's expense.
Yeah. So, with that being said, let's jump into the crime.
So Cyntoia was charged with murder and aggravated robbery and something else I don't remember at the moment. When she was 16 years old, she murdered Johnny Allen, who was 43. Okay. That just sounds bad, so let's explain more why and what went down.
So, Cyntoia was sent out by her 24-year-old boyfriend to make some money by prostituting. By today's standard, her boyfriend would not be considered a boyfriend, it would be considered a pimp. She was picked up by Johnny Allen, and he had taken her back to his home, where he had talked about himself and explained that he was a sharpshooter at the army at one point. Cyntoia did not want to go to his house. She much rather went to a hotel, but he insisted. When they got to his home, he showed her his guns, and that, obviously freaked her out. After eating, she did request to lay down because she was tired, hadn't slept in a while.
Yeah, because who just shows their guns to somebody coming in their house? No, that's weird.
Yeah, especially a little girl.
Yeah. That shouldn't have even been in your house. Shouldn't have had nothing to do with you.
Nope. Besides Johnny Allen being 43, he was also a real estate agent. So he had knowledge that, he wasn't like a person who wasn't intelligent. He took a test to get a license. You know what I mean? Like, he knew what he was doing was wrong.
Yeah. I mean, not to mention he was like a Sunday school teacher and all this other crap that you're just like, wait, what? Although, and then in today's world, it's not really that surprising, is it?
No, it's not. I mean, being a Sunday school teacher doesn't mean much anymore.
So Cyntoia said that she wanted to leave and she was trying to figure out a way out. And then, so she asked Johnny to go lay down, saying she hadn't really slept in a couple of days and wanted to go to sleep. So they go get in his bed, and he's shirtless. At least you can't see the bottom half of him in these crime photos, but he's at the very least shirtless in his bed with a 16-year-old. And he keeps messing with her, reaching in between her legs and all this stuff. And she said she kind of just like was brushing him off, trying to make him think she was asleep so that she could leave if he fell asleep. That's what she wanted. That was her goal. At one point, she was just like, ugh, and he rolled over, and she stated that she thought he was rolling over to grab a gun. And then she, in turn, she's already turned over into her purse, which was nearby, and pulls out her small handgun and rolls and shoots him in the back of the head.
She must have been quick.
That's what I was thinking. I was like, damn, girl. Fast. But in the documentary where you get to see the court proceedings, they do show crime scene photos of Johnny after he was shot and was obviously dead. So you can see everything that happened in that aspect as far as what his body looked like. And he had his hands in kind of like a praying position, like his fingers were kind of not really intertwined, but they were kind of intertwined.
Almost like when you put your hands together and put them under your head to go to sleep. It was like he was I sleep like that. I don't know if anybody else does, but like when you put your hands together and then lay on your side and put your underneath.
Yeah. Yeah. So the medical examiner in this case did testify that his hands would have been like that prior to him being shot, because the shot to the back of the head would have killed him immediately.
So after the shooting, Cyntoia gets out of bed, takes $175 that was in Johnny's wallet, takes 2 guns, and of course she had no else way to leave. She needed his truck too. So that's how she got the aggravated robbery charges as well as the murder charges.
Wild ride. Just like when you read through the case and you're reading what happened, it's just like, wait, what? Holy shit.
I don't think my brain would have thought quick enough to do all of that.
So obviously with her being 16 and her saying they kept referring to it as prostitution. I refused to. She had been sex trafficked for a while. And she had been raped multiple times. So she had some sort of PTSD, period. So I think for me, what I think happened, because I also have CPTSD, is it triggered the trauma response and your body just goes into fight or flight mode, and hers went into fight.
Oh no, that part I can understand. I can understand shooting him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I would think to take the money out of his wallet.
She was supposed to be going back to this 24-year-old
with
quote unquote boyfriend with money. So she took the money so she wouldn't have to deal with him, because she didn't say specifically that he was super physically abusive, but come on, you're a 24-year-old messing around with a 16-year-old
who you're sending out on the street to prostitute.
So she goes, and when she's arrested for these crimes, this was one of the interesting parts, is when they show the video from the interrogation. Because I like when they show those. I think it's interesting to see how different officers do different things. But when they're reading her rights, she says something to them about when they get to the part of, you haven't been promised anything or threatened anything. And she's kind of like, promised what? Which is insinuate. She goes on to say, like, well, you said this. And she was saying that the police officer had said that he would talk to the district attorney. I don't know what was said because that conversation was not on film. So it's kind of he said, she said in that aspect. But I just thought that was insane. Cause I'm like, wait.
Obviously, a law enforcement officer, they're going to say, it's better for you to talk so we can talk to the prosecutor. It happens all the time.
Right.
And it's only better for you to talk if you didn't do anything.
Yeah. If you know you did something, it's not the best option for you to talk.
Shut your mouth. It's anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. Not might, will.
So here's our legal advice. If you did it, shut up and ask for a lawyer. Don't say a word.
Even if you didn't do it, shut up and ask for a lawyer.
Yeah. Just in general, if the police are interrogating you about a crime,
And
shut up and
I'm
ask for a
not saying
lawyer.
the police are dirty or anything. I'm just saying it's easier to have a third party who is knowledgeable of what's going to go down in the courtroom than do you just be like, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. It wasn't me. Like, come on now.
No. This isn't a Shaggy song. You can't just sit here and say it wasn't me.
And your mom is not going to be like, oh, it was my other kid.
No.
You know, the one named not me. So, just ask for an attorney. It is your right.
They talk about her biological mom and her biological grandmother in this documentary a good bit. Like, you get to hear from her biological mom and her biological grandma and her adoptive mom. So, you know, you kind of get to hear the whole story from all of them. And I think her biological family, I really hope all of them got intense counseling and any new children born into that family were well taken care of.
Yeah,
Because my God,
they got the bad end of the one of the I think it was the grandmother was like, I wish my mom would have gotten a hysterectomy at 16.
it was the grandma. I couldn't help but laugh.
She was like, she obviously has gotten therapy since, you know, her daughter went through all of that and then her granddaughter, but because you could tell her, she was like, no, there is something wrong with our family. Like, I don't understand.
Yeah, the biological mom and the grandma were both like, nah, you can't. It's the whole family, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, damn. At least y'all know.
And the biological mom was like, there's no way I could do therapy with a bunch of the crazies in our family. I need some one-on-one therapy.
Yeah. And I'm like, same girl. So the biological mom got pregnant with Cyntoia when she was 16 years old, and she drank her entire pregnancy. Big no-no, guys. I don't know exactly all the risks because I've never been pregnant, but I know it's a huge no-no.
Well, let's start with what happened to Cyntoia. It messes up the development of the brain. Your brain is developing while you're in utero. If your mother is drinking, it is messing up that baby's brain. And I know there's some cultures be like, oh, 1 glass of red wine is okay. Well, that's good for you. I wasn't taking my chances. I needed my kids to have full brains.
Yeah, I've heard people say, like, oh, you can have, like, a glass of red wine while you're pregnant. And I'm like, that doesn't sound like a good idea. Why risk it?
Is it worth it? Like, really? I don't understand.
When after Cyntoia was born, her mom was still drinking. And sounds like she was prostituting, but she was 16, 17, so it's not prostituting. And she said when Cyntoia was 8 months old is when she was introduced to crack cocaine.
Not Cyntoia, the mother.
The mother, yes, sorry. That woman just got screwed. Because obviously she wasn't brought up exactly the way that you should be. Because like we said, that family was messed up. And the biological grandmother and the biological mom had been raped and or sexually assaulted in some way.
Yeah, the whole family it was a lot of heartbreak. And you could tell that Cyntoia's adoptive mother understood, but didn't know how to help.
Yeah, her adoptive mom seems like a really nice lady. And I hope she's having a good life because she seemed very, very nice and very chill. So let's talk about when they're getting ready for the trial portion of deciding if she's going to be in the juvenile court system or the adult court system. And they have a psychological evaluation happen. And they were showing Cyntoia pictures of people that depicted situations. And what you do in those situations is you're supposed to make up the story of what's happening in those pictures. And every picture she had the most violent, sad stories for all of them.
Besides the violent pictures, I was kind of waiting to get to this part, but I think that if you cannot give consent to have sex in the state of Tennessee where this case happened, how can they have a trial to determine if you should be charged as an adult or as a child?
Yeah, I agree. Because this was in 2004. And there's obviously been a lot of changes since 2004 as far as recognizing human trafficking.
But even because of that case, Like, let's just say this was just a girl killed somebody. How can they determine? Like, she's not old enough to drink. She's not old enough to smoke. She's not old enough to decide if she wants to have sex. She's not old enough to get married. Like, you all of these things that are quote unquote adult things. But then how can you do some tests to determine if she should be charged in adult court?
Yeah, I agree. Because I don't understand, but every state is different. Certain states, if it's like first degree murder, it's automatic adult, no matter regardless of age.
Which I don't agree with.
I
But
don't either.
your brain's not fully developed till you're 23, so, or 24, whatever your frontal lobe is, which is where you make your judgment calls. 18. I mean, either way, the test that she was going through, I don't think in any way, shape, or form showed that she was mature enough to be charged in adult court like she was.
Yeah, I do not understand how they came to that conclusion that she was capable and able to be charged as an adult. I did not see it personally after hearing everything she talked about and how she spoke. You know, I don't think she fully, at that point, still fully understood what exactly was going on. Like, she knew she was in jail. She knew she was getting charged with this murder. But I don't think she realized really how serious it was. And I don't know if that's just how I took it or if she really didn't. But she was put into the adult system. She was found guilty on all charges. And with that particular, it's automatic 51, at least 51 years served to life in prison without parole, which insane. Again, she was 16.
She was just barely 16.
Yeah, it was heartbreaking to see how this was so mishandled to me. So 8 years later, after her conviction, there was an appeal because after the first documentary came out, there was a lawyer that saw it, and then him and somebody else both watched it, and they went and took her case pro bono in order to help her with her appeal. And this is where they have her evaluated, and this is where the fetal alcohol spectrum disorder comes in. And they go into this appeal by saying she was not properly represented, or the attorneys that she had did not present full evidence in the case that could have helped her by not having her evaluated and by not having this out there, because the lawyers were aware that her biological mom did drink when she was pregnant. So
Also during the initial trial, the fetal alcohol syndrome disorder was never talked about. It wasn't brought up or tested for. Was that because it wasn't well known back then? I don't know, but it wasn't talked about until after appeals. Until I
yeah.
got to the appeal section.
So I rewatched this again last night just to refresh my brain a little bit on the documentary and everything. And when it got to the trial portion of the appeal, and the examiner is talking about the fetal alcohol syndrome, and he's talking about where Cyntoia falls on that, and where her IQ is, and how she's severely impaired by all of this, and like just explaining basically that she was 18 at the time, I think, or older. I don't remember. But she wasn't fully developed where that age she was at should have been. And they pan over to her and she's crying. And that broke my heart. It, to me, was one of the most heartbreaking points of that documentary, because it's like she's hearing, I don't know how much they told her before trial, or even if they had told her, you're still being basically told that you're not developed, that your brain doesn't work right and all that. That was sad. It made me very sad.
It was sad. I felt, even if she had been told prior to trial, to have that talked about in front of so many people had to be embarrassing.
Yeah. Well, I understand that it could have helped her, which it did not. the appeal was denied for whatever reason. That sucks, because then she had to keep fighting and continuously fighting.
Although eventually the governor of Tennessee did give her clemency.
Yeah, it was just a long,
15
drawn-out
years.
process.
She spent 15 years in prison for that.
Which ultimately was better for her.
Yes, I agree. It got her a high school education. It got her college education. She met her husband. She learned a lot about how to cope with her anger issues. I think 15 years for the crime she did, I think that amount of time was respectable. She's only 30. You know what I mean? Like, having all of those tools now will help you lead a much more successful life than if you spent 3 or 4 years in the juvenile program and got nowhere. You know what I mean? So in this case, yes, it did turn out in her benefit, in my opinion, because I don't think she would have had the opportunity to be successful if she didn't get arrested.
No, I agree. I think had none of this ever happened, or had she not got caught, whatever, she would still have been on the streets, if not already dead, honestly, because of the people she was running around with and how her life was going. So it was better for her to have been there. It sucks that it had to go that way and that there wasn't other ways for that to happen. But, you know, some people thrive when they are put in those situations, and she's one of those people that thrived.
Yeah, she definitely thrived. She definitely learned a lot about herself, about the world, about mental health issues.
Yeah. So, like we said, she was granted clemency. And during my readings for this, I realized a lot of people did not understand what clemency was. It's basically just a pardon. That does not mean you get off scot-free. It does not mean they don't erase the charge from the record, from my understanding. I could be wrong. It just means that instead of her having to sit there for the full 51 years, he essentially gave her time to serve, and I think she had to do like some probation, something along those lines. But for some reason, a lot of people do not understand what clemency is and think it's just, you know, a get out of jail free card.
No, there's always stipulations to it. When it's not, I kind of wonder who paid who. Yeah. I hope that, because nothing's fixed. It doesn't matter what kind of mental health issues you have. If you don't continue those therapies and continue to, you know, work on that, it will come back. And her paranoia and just the damage she could cause without having those safeguards in place could definitely come back.
Yeah.
She has wrote a book.
Yeah, she's out here advocating, and
she is married.
Yeah, she seems happy, and I'm happy she's happy, especially when you look at her past and see where she came from.
Yep. And her mom was one of the things her mom said in the documentary was that she would never see her daughter in her home again. Like, she would be gone and dead by the time her daughter got out. So I hope they get to spend this time together.
Yeah.
Because
Cyntoia, like I said, she seemed like she didn't fully understand, or she was just okay with getting life and doing whatever. Because I think it sounded like her viewpoint was, at least I'm still alive. You know, she still got to live a life.
Yep.
But it just does in jail.
Yep.
But I think the main person that was hurt by the sentencing was her. And that hurt, hearing, like, you know, the mom talking about everything. And it was just like, oh, God, I want to make it better.
Yeah. So I'm hoping they're enjoying this time together. And I hope Cyntoia's voice is not silenced and she continues to be an advocate. But on that note, it sounds like we should wrap this up. You agree? You got any other points?
My only other point that I was going to say is that Cyntoia's case getting put out there on social media did start a ripple effect of a lot of other people that were in jail or in prison serving these long sentences for things that should not have been considered what they were considered. So this kind of started a ripple effect of social media stepping up and saying, wait, why is this person, like one person that killed their pimp because they were being trafficked, they were being abused. Why are they sitting in jail for life? So it did start a ripple effect, and there was a lot of people that, I at least can think of like 2 or 3 off the top of my head that got a lot of help. If not out of jail, they got their sentence severely reduced because social media and people realizing, hey, these crimes were tried back in this point in time, but now, let's say somebody's going through it now in 2021, you wouldn't send that person to prison for life. You wouldn't, because you'd look at it and say, oh, they killed somebody that was forcing them to have sex. That's my only thought, and that I think it's a good thing that it started a ripple effect.
Yep, I agree.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning into this week's episode of Crime and Chill. Be sure to join our Facebook group, Crime and Chill Fam, for updates. We are also live on YouTube now, so you can listen to the podcasts on YouTube. If you don't like Spotify and you don't like all the other platforms, because some people don't, it's on YouTube. And I am slowly but surely getting them all up. It's a process, y'all. So thanks for joining us. We hope to see y'all next week. Bye.